Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I welcome you all to Bhakti Sangha Japa call. Thank you all so much for joining us and giving us a very valuable association today. May I know who all are on the call today? Please introduce yourselves.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from College Station, Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances with Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining us and giving us a very valuable association today.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharajas, and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirtida Sundari Dasa.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining us and giving us the valuable association on the call today. Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves today?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All your show, Vada and all your Guru Maharajas. This is Ujwal Rasanand Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ujwal Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada, we are very happy to have you on the call. Is there anyone else? Anyone else would like to introduce themselves today? Hema Mataji, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay. So I'll start the recording in that case. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all so much for joining us and giving us your very valuable association this mid-morning. Today, we are continuing our series on Archa Vigraha. Last week, you all heard Srila Prabhupada's class on Archa Vigraha. And today, we'll have His Grace, Ujwal Rasanand Prabhu, speak. But before that, I would like to share a quote of Srila Prabhupada for today. Today is 13th April. Srila Prabhupada's quote is as follows. Shiva is dahi and Krishna is milk. Dahi, the preparation of dahi, that you take milk, pure milk, and mix it with a little sour thing. Then it becomes dahi. Similarly, Krishna is pure spirit. And when pure spirit is mixed up with Maya, that is Shiva. This was spoken by His Divine Grace in Hyderabad, April 13, 1975. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Today we have His Grace Ujwal Rasananda Prabhu, and Prabhuji will be speaking on welcoming Sri Vigraha. So I would just like to say a few sentences, few words about Prabhu. Prabhu is trained in deity worship and in performing yajnas by the Mayapur Institute. And he has also been a part of welcoming many deities and performing yajnas in various temples. So we are very, very fortunate to have him, and he has amazing insights. So let's all stay tuned to hear from Prabhuji. And another point about him is that Kirtida Mataji is his mother. I wouldn't say he's the son of Kirtida Mataji, but rather Kirtida Mataji is fortunate to be his mother. So Prabhuji, you can take over and enlighten us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for taking your time out from your busy schedule today and coming to this presentation. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So this will be a two-part seminar. Today we'll be talking about welcoming Shri Vigraha and understanding the aspect or the importance of Shri Vigraha. And then tomorrow will be the second part, which is worshipping Shri Vigraha. So how do we worship the deities at home? What is the right procedure? What is the right standard to set? So before we welcome and before we worship, let us all understand what is Archa Vigraha or Shri Vigraha. The word Vigraha itself, this is from the Amar Kosha dictionary, the Sanskrit Amar Kosha. The word Vigraha comes from Vividham Sukham Grinati. Vividham means various. Sukham, joys or happiness. And Grinati means acceptance. So the word Vigraha can be broken to V and Graha. V means Vividham and Graha means Grinati, to accept. So Vigraha means accepting various, whatever you add before it. For example, in this case, we can do Archa. So Archa means Archayateti. It is worshipped. So Archa Vigraha means Vigraha, which is accepting various Archas or various items of worship. And there's two ways to worship Archa Vigraha. One is the Bhagavad Vidhi and the other is Pancharatrika Vidhi. So the Pancharatrika Vidhi is coming from Narada Pancharatra, and Bhagavad Vidhi is actually how Krishna and Radharani are worshipped in Goloka Vrindavan. Krishna and Radharani actually, or Radha Krishna, never worshipped in Pancharatrika Vidhi. Pancharatrika Vidhi is actually very much in the material plane, and Bhagavad Vidhi is in the spiritual plane. However, we cannot directly go into the spiritual plane. We cannot worship Radha and Krishna into the Bhagavad Vidhi. So we have to follow the Pancharatrika Vidhi. We have to follow what is the standards that are set by Narad Muni for all of the human beings, for all of us to follow. And that is basically what we build upon. So we follow some aspects of Bhagavad Vidhi, but they are understood under the Pancharatrika Vidhi. So Vigraha, even though is made out of many material objects, the form itself is not material. The Vigraha form is a spiritual form, and we should never take it into consideration that this is a material form. For example, in this picture, we see a marble Radha Krishna. So even though, yes, it is made out of marble, but that does not mean that this form is material. The form itself is spiritual. So then what is Shri Vigraha, or what are the items that a Vigraha is made out of? So this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto, 27th chapter and 12th verse. This is also quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas, 5th Vilas, 257th verse. Shailidaru mai lauhi lepya lekhya cha shaikati manomai manimai pratimashta vidhasmrita. So this verse explains that there are 8 different objects or items that a deity can be made out of. So let's break it down. So we have Shaili. Shaili is stone. Darumai is, or Daru is wood. Lohi is metal. Lepya is any paste, so clay, sandalwood, or any other substances that is a paste. Lekhya is painted. Shaikati is made of sand, mana out of the mind, conceived in the mind, and mani made of jewels. The deity form of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties: stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, the mind, or jewels. So these are the 8 ways that a deity can be made. And this material objects does not make the deity itself material. The deity itself is still very spiritual. So we should never take that just because this deity is made out of clay or this deity is made out of metal like brass. Oh, this is a brass deity. This is still Gaur-Nitai. This is still Radha Krishna, whatever the deity is. And many times we say that, oh, pictures are not as potent as deities. In one sense, it is correct, but according to this verse and a lot of other verses in Hari Bhakti Vilas, that is an incorrect consideration. Even a painting of the Lord is as potent, as as good as any like metal or sand or wood deities. And a lot of, if you go to the Loy Bazaar in Vrindavan or any other bazaar, you'll see hearing that they're Ashtadhatu. So the Ashtadhatu is basically, dhatu is like a substance or an object, and Ashta means 8 different materials. So we just saw that there are 8 varieties. So under that, the metal, there's 2 concepts in the metal part. There's Ashtadhatu and Panchadhatu. Panchadhatu is also known as Panchaloha. So Ashtadhatu is gold, silver, copper, zinc, iron, tin, lead, and mercury. Copper and zinc actually, when combined, make brass. So that's why most of the deities have a brass, because they don't use a lot of gold and silver or iron, tin. That's very little minute amounts. Mainly it's just copper and zinc put together to become brass. Now, you'll hear that these deities are Ashtadhatu, and some devotees say that, oh, we have Ashtadhatu. Actually, it's not Ashtadhatu. Actually, it's very hard to get Ashtadhatu deities. Reasoning is that mercury and room temperature is liquid. To make Ashtadhatu, once the deities are made out of the 7 different materials, which is gold, silver, copper, zinc, iron, tin, and lead, they drill a hole in the back of the deity, the head. And in that, they fill mercury and they seal it. And the seal every 5 years has to be replaced. So majority of the times you will not have an Ashtadhatu. It's going to be a Panchadhatu or a Tridhatu. Tridhatu being only copper, zinc, and iron. Sometimes they don't put gold and silver. But they will say it as Ashtadhatu because many of the devotees know that there's an Ashtadhatu concept and they like and they'll buy thinking it's Ashtadhatu. But the majority of the times it's going to be Panchadhatu. And Panchadhatu is gold, silver, copper, zinc, and iron. And this specific seminar is focused upon the worship of the deities in the home environment. And for home deities, they're never made out of tin, lead, or mercury. So it's always going to be either the 5 or the 3, which is copper, zinc, and iron. So now that we have understood what is Vigraha or what is Shri Vigraha, let us welcome the Vigraha. First thing is that who should worship these deities? Not everyone can worship deities, but at the same time, Srila Prabhupada has said multiple times, as in this verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the most auspicious path for a religious householder of the twice-born orders, that means a Brahmana, to selflessly worship the personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-37 is the purport. So Srila Prabhupada many times has emphasized that the Grihastas should worship deities. They should always have Archa Vigraha in their house, and there should be a regular worship of those deities. He has said in another verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:5-23-24, Grihastha devotees must adopt the Archana Vidhi or deity worship according to the suitable arrangements and directions given by the spiritual master. One should always go up to the spiritual master and ask for their blessings to welcome Shri Vigraha and start worshipping the Vigraha. And Grihasthas always should do it. It's an order by Srila Prabhupada. He said it multiple times now, and I'm only quoting two verses or two quotes here, but he said multiple times. Now, here Srila Prabhupada is saying that, is it just the twice born, or can it be anyone? So that depends on the deities, which deities, and we'll go over depth in the next couple minutes of who should worship. But Srila Prabhupada very much emphasized by his own example as he was a young child and many quotes that children should be engaged in worshipping Shri Vigraha. He has said that, Srila Prabhupada actually said that after the age of 12, one should take Upanayanam, not exactly the initiation, but Upanayanam is basically when they go to Gurukul, they're given a thread. And because to worship Shri Vigraha, one has to be initiated. One has to be given the Gayatri. The Gayatri, as in other classes we have heard that there are 5 aspects to initiation, and one of them is yoga or yaga. And yaga is the authority or the blessings of the guru telling you that yes, you can now worship. So yaga is needed and mantra is needed. A mantra is the Gayatri mantras that we get from the guru. And that's why Srila Prabhupada here said twice born orders. But children under the shelter, under the guidance of the parents, they can worship the deities. They can be taught how to do artis. They can be taught how to dress the deities. However, one should always remember that respect should be given to Shri Vigraha. Many kids, I have seen children that they'll kind of play around with the Gopal deity, thinking that Gopal is their friend. Now, yes, that is correct that you can see the Lord in any of the 4 or 5 rasas, Madhurya, Vatsalya, Dasyam, Sakyam, or Shantaras, of course. And Shantaras has been condemned by Mahaprabhu to not be, you should not be in Shantaras. You should always choose one of the 4s. So in that aspect, yes, we can take Gopal as our friend. But don't forget, it's still that the Gopal is a Vigraha. Gopal is Krishna himself. So we have to still be given that respect. There was recently an article actually stated in one of the ministry in the Vrindavan saying that of the Tokri Aparad. The Tokri Aparad is actually in Vrindavan. Many people will take their Gopals in a basket to different places. Like they'll go to picnic, they'll take Gopal with them. Now, in one sense, yes, that is okay, because you're so attached to Gopal that you want Gopal to be with you at all times, or other deities to be with you at all times. But at the same time, that is incorrect, because when you go to a picnic place, that place is not pure. You have different dogs, like, doing different things, and it's very impure, and you can't keep a deity at a very impure place. Actually, in the Pancharatrika Vidhi and in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, actually, it's stated that even, let's say, for example, you're going out somewhere and you give the deities to your friend to worship, the deity must be given a proper welcoming when they go to that other house. Even if you move the deity from one room to another room in your own house, there has to be an abhishek of the deity in that other place before they can start worshiping. Of course, we don't really follow that high of a standard, and that's okay. But that basically shows that you just cannot move deities around. For example, take oneself as an example. When we go to someone else's house, we don't just go and get to their house. We always go with the right attire. We bring gifts, dadati patigrahati, to give gifts, accept gifts, as the nectar of instruction Upadeshamrita states. So when we even go to someone else's house, we go with gifts, we go with the right mindset, we go with the right mood, we go with our paraphernalia, we bring our suitcase of clothes if we need to change and everything. It's the same for the deities. They cannot just be taken and moved to a different house or a different place. They go with their paraphernalia, they go with the entire entourage of their items, and they have to be taken with the proper attitude and the mood. So children completely should be engaged in making sure to respect Shri Vigraha, but at the same time, they should be made sure that you respect them. Respecting Shri Vigraha is very important. So that should always be taught. So what is the mood and the standards that we should set for deity worship. So as we all know that there's two types of bhaktis, Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So Pancharatrika Vidhi falls under Vaidhi Bhakti, following rules, following regulations, following different standards. The Bhagavad Vidhi follows under Raganuga Bhakti. There's no rules, it's just love. And that's what Radha Krishna usually worshipped under. But especially for me, I definitely know that I'm not in that standard of saying that, oh, I can follow Raganuga Bhakti. So that's why we follow Vaidhi Bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that one should follow Pancharatrika Vidhi when doing deity worship, not Bhagavad Vidhi. There are instances of people who have followed deity worship under Bhagavad Vidhi, Raganuga Bhakti. One such example is Andhra Prabhu. He used to follow that. But of course, for neophytes or Kanishthadikaris, Prabhupada has always recommended to follow under Pancharatrika, which is Vaidhi Bhakti. We still give the love and devotion that we have, but we follow standards, we follow rules. It is very important that we follow those rules. Srila Prabhupada always emphasized, there's a book that is called Deity Worship Ministry, released called the Pancharatrika Pradipa. And that book has a lot of quotes from Srila Prabhupada stating why we should worship in Vaidhi Bhakti, why we should follow Pancharatrika Vidhi, why Grihasthas should learn the proper Pancharatrika Vidhi to do deity worship at home. And then he also mentioned that the mood is of Dasyam and Atma Nivedanam. Deity worship under Vaidhi Pancharatrika Vidhi, there is no other mood except Dasyam and Atma Nivedanam. There should always be surrenderance unto the Shri Vigraha, and we should always worship Shri Vigraha with the mood of a servant. Dasyam also refers to not just the being the servant, but being Dasa Nudasa Nudasa. As we know that famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, and where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that we are neither the caste, we're neither this varna. We're basically just Gopir Bhartiyo Kamalayo Dasa Nudasa Nudas. So that is the mood that we should follow. And the mood of Dasyam is that we're doing whatever we're doing is based on or is done under the guidance of the spiritual master. We do not go on the altar and start doing arati of the deities. Actually, we always show those items that we're about to offer first to our guru and then to the deities. Guru, Prabhupada, Saraswati Thakur, we go up the disciplic succession and then we go to the deities. We should never directly approach the deities. We should never directly approach the altar unless we are doing it under the guidance of the spiritual master. Simple standards is the key. One should be consistent with the standards. Krishna, Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Gaura-Nitai, any of the deities you can name, they are not looking for the most elaborate standards of deity worship. For example, when we do different things, there are different mudras, different mantras that must be chanted. Krishna is not looking for that. Krishna is looking for love and devotion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prashiti tadaram bhakti uparitam asnami pratatmanaha. Bhakti is the key. So we should always do with devotion, always do with love and devotion. And simple standards is completely okay. Low standards, completely okay. One should focus on the personal sadhana. This day and age is not for deity worship. As Sri Prabhupada has said many times, this is for personal sadhana, this is for japa, sankirtan. One should not put deity worship above the sadhana. We should always focus on our rounds. We should always focus on our own swadhyaya, on our own book reading. But at the same time, deity worship should also be incorporated in the daily routine. So low standards is okay. It's just be consistent. If set a standard, for example, you wake up the deities at 8 o'clock. Be consistent with that. Don't make it one time 9, one time 4 o'clock in the morning, one time 6 o'clock, random times. Be consistent. Set a standard and be consistent with it. Follow what can be followed. If there's some things that are stopping you from doing 2 times arati, like let's say for example, then that's fine. Do 1 time arati. If you can't do a big arati, do a small arati. If you can't do arati, then just sing the arati. If you can't do that, then just Keep it as, of course, keep it bare minimum. Of course, you can't just be like, oh, I just want deities and I won't do anything. Keep simple, but be consistent with the standards. Now the question comes, which deity to welcome? Which deity should we choose? We have so many options. We have Gaurnitai, Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. Of course, there are many more that we have the option. So the first thing is take guidance from the spiritual master. The spiritual master should decide which deities do we have the adhikar to worship. We might think that we have the adhikar to worship Radha Krishna. We might think we have the adhikar to worship Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, but honestly, who are we to decide what adhikar we have? Even for initiation, the only qualification we have is that we have no qualification. That's what I've heard from many gurus when they give their initiation lectures, that your only qualification is that you've come under Srila Prabhupada, you've accepted a guru, and that's your only qualification. You don't have any other qualification to take initiation. So that's the same thing here. We don't have the adhikar to worship deities. We are so fortunate actually to even be able to worship Radha Krishna, because for us to worship Radha Krishna, we have to take guidance from Lalita Devi, Lalita Sakhi. She's the one who guides and who allows that, oh, you can worship, you cannot worship, you can worship, you cannot worship. She's basically the head pujari in Goloka Vrindavan. So until we take her, guidance under her, then we cannot properly worship Radha Krishna. And in that consideration, we accept spiritual master to guide us and tell us who we should worship. Then second point comes as, so as we know that there are so many different 8 different varieties that the deities can be made of, but the main 2 famous are metal or marble. So what do we choose? Do we choose metal deities? Do we choose marble deities? In this example, we can see they have, in this picture, we can see they have marble Radha Krishna and they have metal Gaurnitai. So metal or brass Gaurnitai. Now, we consider in this state that marble is very delicate. Marble can break, marble can shatter, marble can crack very easily. If you drop a marble deity, if you can even like sometimes when we do deity dressing, where the standard is to take everything off our hands, else we can even like scratch the deities. If you have rings on, if you have watches, if you have bangles on, we can scratch the deities. And a scratch on a marble really shines, especially if the Krishna is black, which is stone actually. So when we see like black and white Radha Krishna, actually Radharani is made of marble and Krishna is made of black stone. There's no black marble, it's black stone. So what do we decide? Do we choose marble? Do we choose metal? And of course, we should always take, for any questions, we should take guidance under spiritual master. But going into a little bit of theoretical point, marble is very delicate. Brass deities are not that delicate. You can easily shine the brass deities. You can easily paint on the brass deities. You can easily dress the brass deities. You don't have to worry about scratches on metal. But marble, you have to be very careful. So these are some considerations to keep in mind when choosing the right form or choosing the right element that the deity is made out of. Second point is size. How big? There's so many different sizes. It starts from 6 inches up to, you can get to 4, 5, 6 feet deities. For even home, actually, you can get many sizes. So that is a question that you have to consider, like how big do you want your deities to be? That is all on personal preference. Big deities, usually, of course, they look big, they look nice, they look beautiful. Small deities, usually hard to see the different details, the minute details. So that is based on how much of a standard can you set. Big deities also require a little more standard. So the first deities who I want to talk about is Gaurnitai. So Srila Prabhupada always mentioned that Gaurnitai is very merciful, and it's a must that if you have deities, you should always start with Gaurnitai. Anybody can serve Gaurnitai. It's actually said that even somebody who just joined ISKCON, is not initiated, just chanting a couple rounds, can worship Gaurnitai. Because Gaurnitai will help one advance in their spiritual progress. If someone is chanting 4 or 5 rounds, that's fine. Get Gaurnitai, start worshiping, do arti, give them bhoga. And Gaurnitai is so merciful that they will help you get they'll help you in your spiritual progress, and you'll automatically see the change in yourself, that you'll go from 4 rounds to 16 rounds, and maybe one day even take initiation. So Gaur-Nitai is very merciful, and it's a must that all Grihastas should start serving from Gaur-Nitai. Another deity set I want to talk about is Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. So they have medium standards, and their main standard for Jagannath Baladev Subhadra is it's recommended that one should be initiated, first initiation at least, and they are supposed to be given opulent meals daily. If you see in Puri, there's a Chapan Bhog daily for Jagannath. Of course, one cannot always make Chapan Bhog for the deities every day, but they should be given opulent meals every day. There should be dal, roti, sabji, rice, sweets every single day to Jagannath Baladev Subhadra without fail. So they require a little bit of medium standards. Now Radha Krishna. So according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, Vilas 4, Vilas 5, and Vilas 8, only and only second initiates can worship Radha Krishna. Only and only second initiates. Not even first initiate devotees. You have to be second initiation. You have to have the Gopal mantra to worship, the 18-syllable Gopal mantra to worship Krishna. However, Srila Prabhupada has made that standard easy for us. He's recommended that at least first initiate devotees who are chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 regulated principles can worship Radha Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has made that standard a lot easier for you, a lot easier for all of us. But it is recommended that only second initiates worship Radha Krishna, even at home. And there are high standards necessary. Actually, Radha Krishna take offenses because Lalita Devi does not like us cutting corners, does not like, oh, one day if I just give them simple khichdi, that's fine. One day if I just give them milk in the morning, that's fine. No. The standard has to be high for Radha Krishna. And that's exactly why they don't, that's why the preference or recommendation is that one should be at least initiated or second initiated. So one should always consider these rules and regulations that are set for different types of deities, and based on that, they should decide. It's completely okay. A lot of devotees think that, oh, because if you don't have Radha Krishna, that's an insult. Like, oh, you're a devotee of Krishna, you don't have Radha Krishna in your home. That's fine. Gaur-Nitai is basically Radha Krishna and Balaram. You get more in that. Gauranga is Radha and Krishna combined, and you get Balaram as well. So that's the same thing. And then, of course, we also have Krishna Balaram deities. A lot of devotees want to have Krishna Balaram deities. Krishna Balaram deities, they have, I would say, medium standards. They don't have as high standards. And then, of course, we also have Gopal. Gopal is very high. Gopal is a child. So if the child doesn't get something they want, then you can imagine what the child does. One such example is when Yashoda Maya was feeding Krishna milk, and she stopped because she was about to, the milk on the stove was about to overpour. And we all know the Damodar Leela. We all know the stories that Gopal has done when he was not given what he wanted. So Gopal deities can create a big havoc in the lives of devotees if they're not given what they want. So we should always keep in mind these rules and decide from there which deities, which size, and which element they are made of. And the best person to ask is your spiritual master. That's the best person to ask what you should do and what you should not do. Spiritual masters can also help you decide on a standard. So the next thing is, well, we need a home for the deities. The deities, we can't just put them on a table and call it a day. We have to establish a proper home, a proper altar. When we move into a house, we don't move into a non-furnished house when the painting is still going on, the walls are still being created. We wait for every inspection to pass, we get the keys, and then we move on to the house. So when we have such high standards to get into a house, then what standards would Krishna have to go into his house? And that is the thing, we have to prepare a well-decorated altar for the Lord to reside. It cannot be just an unfinished altar. It should not be just a table. We should create a proper house for the deities to reside. In this picture, we can see it's very opulent. This is not the standard for home. I mean, if you can make it, but this is not what you have to do. You can create a simple altar, a very simple altar can be created, and that's completely fine. It should just be a very well decorated environment for Krishna to enter. He should feel right at home. That's basically the point. And a lot of devotees have asked me that which direction should the deities face? The answer based on Hari Bhakti Vilas 3 is and 4 is that the direction should be the deities should face the east direction. Deities should face east. The reasoning is that Surya Dev in the morning when there's a Surya Uday, when he starts his daily routine, he pays his respects to the Lord. And he's in the east direction. So he wants that all the deities in this entire world to face him so that he can pay his respects before he starts his daily routine. That's the reason why deities should be in the east direction. Now, the size of the altar, what it's made out of wood, marble, metal, that's fine. It should just not be too big for the house or for the deities. Like if you, let's say, have 12-inch deities, like about this big, a foot, you don't want your altars to be so grand that the deities look tiny. You also don't want the altar to be so small that the deities look too big and it's not proper. So we want just the right size for the deities to reside. First, we should see which deity to welcome, how many deities. Some people, they'll have like Gaura-Nitai, Radha-Krishna, and Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. So decide on which deities to choose, and then decide on how big the altar should be. Take measurements of the deities, see how big they are, decide on the altar, and make it just the perfect place. The last thing is decorate it. Add different things. Like, for example, if you have Radha Krishna, you can make a Vrindavan type of environment. You can add leaves, you can add flowers, you can have different types of animals, peacocks, elephants, something like that. So decorate it, make the Lord feel comfortable. Gaura-Nitai, you can do so many different things. Jagannath, Subhadra, many things. You can have a chakra on top of the altar to give it like the puri and the flag. So make the Lord feel comfortable. When we want to feel comfortable in our houses, the Lord wants to feel comfortable in his house as well. The next thing that I want to talk about is, what about the paraphernalia? We have so many options for paraphernalia. There's so many things that are needed. First thing, let's talk about bhoga trays. We need a tray, we need different bowls, we need spoons, glasses, cups, different things for the bhoga to be offered to the Lord. Then we need arti paraphernalia. So as you can see on the picture, we have a conch, we have the deep, we have the bell, we have the achman cup, we have the stand for the incense sticks. So second thing I want to talk about in the arti paraphernalia is conches. There are two types of conches. One is used for the bathing and one is used for blowing. We cannot use one or the other. We have to have both. Bathing conches are closed in the end. For example, you see in this picture, the right hand side, the lower right picture, one of the conches is open and one of the conches is closed on the top. It has a tip. The one that is tipped, that is the bathing one, so the water doesn't pour out of the other side. The blowing conches have to be open, only then you can blow in the conch shell. So there are two different types of conch shells that you should have if you're doing for arti. You have the blowing conch shell and then you have the bathing conch shells. Third thing is the chamara. One should have the whisk, the yak tail whisk, and also vyajana, which is the peacock fan. That is only used in the summers, but one should always have that. Question comes, which should it be made out of? Brass or silver? Now, Hari Bhakti Vilas and the Pancharatrika Vidhi both state that silver is the one that is recommended because silver is very much pure. You should use pure silver for bhoga trays and all the other paraphernalias. However, it's good that you can at least keep the bhoga trays to be made of silver, and then the other arti paraphernalia can be brass. That is completely fine. Brass is also okay, as we know in many temples at our home, brass is completely okay to use. Brass is also okay for bhogas and different bhoga paraphernalia, but it's recommended that at least for the bhoga paraphernalia, one should stick to silver, and the other things can be out of brass. And of course, have dresses and jewelries. This should all be prepared. We still have not yet gone to the point of welcoming the deity. We have only gone to the points, the prerequisites. So dresses, jewelry, the altar decorations, everything should be ready before we welcome the deities in our house. The deities should be ready, meaning we should have already gotten the deities. We should have the altar ready. We don't have to yet place the deities on the altar. And arti plates, boga trays, everything should be ready and ready to go. So now let's jump into how to welcome the deities. So we'll work on two different types of welcoming. One is a temple welcoming and the home welcoming. Temple welcoming, also known as prana pratishtha. So we'll talk about what are the steps that are taken in that and why it should not be done at home and why the home, there's a different way. So actually, there's only one type of welcoming, which is the Pancharatra welcoming, also known as prana pratishtha. They have been, Sri Prabhupada has made different standards for the welcoming so that they can be welcomed at home as well. But there's only one type of welcoming and mentioned in the Shastras. Hari Bhakti Vilas does not state anything for home deities or the proper way of welcoming home deities. So Pancharatra or Prana Pratishtha is welcoming the Lord at temple. So it's at least at a minimum 3-day festival. Some of them will have a 5-day festival, and I'll explain why there's a 5-day festival. So first day, the Lord is prepared for installation, and there are yagyas done to invoke auspiciousness. That's what happens in the first day. The second day is the Ghata Sthapana and the Abhishek of the Lord. So this picture is of the day 2. As you can see, there's a Ghata, there's a Ghata in the left side of the deities, which has the mantric form of the Lord, of Radha Krishna in this case. And Radha Krishna is in a tray ready to have Abhishek of them. That's the second day. And the third day is the most important day, where the actual Prana Pratishtha, the installation, is done. In that ceremony, there's also something known as Nyasa Homa, N-Y-A-S-A, Nyasa Homa. So Nyasa Homa is where with the power of mantras, the material objects are destroyed and turned into spiritual. What I mean by material objects, for example, the eyes, the lips, the genitals, the heart, the hands, the limbs, the different limbs of the deities is destroyed from being material to spiritual. And then we establish the Lord on the altar. Now, this is a minimum 3-day festival. A 5-day festival would come into place actually is the second day before the Abhishek, there is a ceremony called Netra Unmilan, which is when the eyes of the deities are opened. Now, if the deities' eyes are already painted, which is majority of the times, then this can be a 3-day festival. The 5-day festival is required when the eyes are not painted, which is the actual way. The eyes are not painted until Netra Unmilan has been done. After the Netra Unmilan has been done on the second day, then the Shilpakar, the sculpture, actually comes and paints the eyes of the deities. Then they dry the 3rd, 4th day, and then the 5th day is the Prana Pratishtha. So that is what the 5-day festival is. If the eyes are painted, then it's only a 3-day festival, because Netra Unmilan is just at that point a ceremony where the eyes are destroyed, the material eyes, and converted to a spiritual eyes, and then the Abhishek of the Lord is done. But if the eyes are not done, eyes are not created, then it's a 5-day festival. So this is for Pancharatra welcoming. Now the home welcoming. So this is the procedure that has been outlined a little bit, not to that great extent, in different books. Namely, the book that I'm recommending this procedure from is from Rupa Goswami's Shri Krishna Janma Tithi Vidhi. That's a book that he wrote on how to do what is the proper festival procedure to be done on Janmashtami days. So, and that is the same that is used for home welcoming or welcoming the Lord. So that's the book, Shri Krishna Janma Tithi Vidhi by Rupa Goswami. So the first thing that is done is the Abhishek of the Lord. So when the deities are taken out of their packaging or their box, tin box, or wherever they came in, they're dressed in like a white dress, which is for the Abhishek dress. They're placed in a nice container that they can hold the Abhishek. and then the Abhishek of the Lord is done. I'm giving a very, very basic structure. This is nothing that is anything very elaborate. Of course, even for home, elaborate things can be done. And one who has studied under the Pancharatrika Vidhi, there are things that you can even match from the Pancharatra Vidhi, which is the Prana Pratishtha, and do it in the home welcoming. The reason why we don't do Prana Pratishtha at home is that once the Prana Pratishtha is done, then there's 7 artis to be offered daily, 7 times bhoga is offered to be daily. It's a lot of standard. It's a very high standard to follow, and not everyone can do that. So it's recommended not to do Prana Pratishtha at home. But there are aspects of the Pancharatrika Vidhi which can be done at home. So in the most basic sense, most basic consideration for the home welcoming, the first thing is Abhishek of the Lord. There's 3 Abhisheks that are done. First is Pancha Gavya. Pancha means 5. Gavya actually means coming from the word go, which means cow or earth. So the 5 items from the cow and earth are milk, yogurt, ghee, which comes from the cow, and then sugar and water, which comes from earth. Honey and sugar water. So honey comes from bees, which is considered like the earth, and sugar water is also coming from sugarcane, which is grown in earth. So those 2 things come from the earth. So milk, yogurt, ghee, honey, and then sugar water. The second Abhishek is Panchamrita Abhishek. 5 types of flavored or colored waters. So if I go back to this slide, as you can see, there's colored waters that are being poured. In this example, we have orange. So that is the Abhishek that is done. And this is not just for welcoming, this is for even normal Abhishek. It is recommended that you have the Panchagavya at minimum. And then after you do Panchagavya, then you do Panchamrit, which is the 5 different flavored waters. For at least for installing the deities, welcoming deities, this must be followed. And then the third Abhishek, which we see in this picture, is Pushpa Abhishek. So after the Panchamrit Abhishek is done, the deities are wiped with a cloth, dried with a cloth. The Abhishek is transferred, they're transferred to a different container, and everybody pours flowers on them. That is the Pushpa Abhishek or the Pushpa Abhishek. That is done on welcoming days. Then the next thing that's done after the Abhishek is the Aarti of the Lord. So we dress the deities, we install them on the altar, we place them on the altar, and we do the first Aarti. The first Aarti signifies I am now initiating the worship of the Lord at my house on a daily basis. Now it becomes part of the routine, it becomes part of your daily routine. And after this first Aarti, it's basically in one sense, we have welcomed the deities and we are telling them we're taking a sankalpa that now that I have deities at my home, I will practice the standards that I've set. I will, do and follow those standards, follow that routine that you've set. Third thing is offering a large feast to the Lord. It is recommended to offer chapan bhog. If that can't be done, it should be a large feast with a lot of items, different types of items that can be created to offer to the Lord. And the last thing is inviting the devotees to see the Lord and honor prasadam. That is the most important aspect of welcoming deities, is that we invite devotees, we invite Srila Prabhupada disciples. If Maharajas can come, even better. For example, at our home, when we installed our Radha Krishna, we had my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Veer Krishna Goswami, who came. He chose the name for the deities Radha Nilamani, and he welcomed them. So when we have such Uttama Bhaktas come, then nothing is needed. Srila Prabhupada actually said many times that Pancharatra welcoming, even at temple, sometimes is not needed. If there's a full kirtan, full japa, then that's all that's needed. For example, recently I did an installation for Gornita in ISKCON Harrisburg. And during that time, we had a fire sacrifice, then we did a proper Abhishek of the Lord. We did not do Prana Pratishtha because they don't have the manpower for having pujaris at the temple 24/7. So that was skipped, but all the other points were done. Netra Milan was done, Ghata Sthapana was done. At that time, I requested the temple president to make sure that from the start of the festival to the end of the festival, there was Akhandanam. So there was kirtan that was happening the entire 8 hours of the festival. It was a one-day festival. It was 8 hours of kirtan, almost actually 10, that started in the morning from the day that we started, from the time that we started all the preparations, the kirtan started to all toward the end, in the end doing Gaur Aarti. So at that time, Prana Pratishtha wasn't required because Gaur Nitai, all he requires is Sankirtan. So everyone came together and did Sankirtan during that time. And that's what pleases Gaur Nitai. And many times Srila Prabhupada actually has installed deities without even doing any sort of Pancharatra Vidhi. He only did the Abhishek, he chanted a couple of japa, he did Kirtan, and just with the power of an Uttama Bhakta, prana was installed in the deities, and Prana Pratishtha did happen without the entire Pancharatra Vidhi. So that are ways. So at home, we should follow that. The most important thing is inviting the devotees and feeding the devotees. That is the best way to have auspiciousness in the house, and that is the best way. We want the Lord to see all the devotees, and we want all the devotees to see the Lord. So we should invite all the devotees in our congregation, ask them to come, ask them to offer flowers at our home. I did, like for example, for our home installation, we did everything in the morning, and then we kept the Pushpabhishek in the evening. So all the devotees came and did Pushpabhishek. So we welcome the deities in that way. We welcome the deities with all the devotees of the Lord, and that is the best way. So here I would like to conclude this portion. Tomorrow we'll be focusing on that. Now we have installed, we have welcomed the deities. Now, how do we worship the deities? What are the different things that are required to worship the deities? How to do arti, how to offer bhoga, how to set the standards. And that will be for tomorrow. So I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and listening to me. All the items that I've said are not from my mental speculation. They're all from what I've learned from the Mayapur Institute. What I've also learned under the teachers that I have learning the Pancharatrika Vidhi under, and Hari Bhakti Vilas, and all the books from Rupa Goswami. For example, as I mentioned, Shri Krishna Dharmasthiti Vidhi. So I would like to thank all of you, and I would like to open up to questions and comments. Please correct me if you know something that I have said incorrectly. And please ask questions. The best way to learn the material that I have stated is from asking questions, clearing the doubts. When we ask questions, others may have those same questions that they might hesitate to ask. So when we have these questions, then we can learn more, we can clarify those doubts, and we can gain a lot more knowledge. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ujwal Prabhu. Thank you so much for such an informational session. This is something that I really should have heard long back, but thank you for bringing it. And thank you for getting us through the various different portions of Archa Vigraha worship. Prabhuji, do you have time for questions? We do. Yes,
Mataji.
Yes. Thank you so much. First, I would like to ask Preeti Vilasini Mataji to please go ahead and.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, Ujwal Prabhu, for such a beautiful class. And I was honored to be a part of your welcoming ceremony. And
filters, ergo, filters meaning.
Okay, observe all the wonderful ways of, how you welcome the deities. And it was definitely a great experience, a great learning experience for me. Having said that, thank you for this very interesting presentation. I learned a lot today about why we do many things and what is right and what is wrong, what is the best practice. So thank you for that. I have about 4 questions. I'll keep it really quick. You want me to tell all the questions at a shot, or we'll go question after question?
We'll go one by one. That's fine.
So the very silly question about the mercury, that is a part of the Panchadhatu because it is a liquid metal. Is that?
No, so it's part of the Ashtadhatu.
Ashtadhatu.
Yeah, so Ashtadhatu has all those elements, and it has the end is tin, lead, and mercury. So the thing is that mercury is part of the Ashtadhatu and it's liquid. So, like for example, if you take the deities in Mayapur, the Panchatattva, they have a hole inside the back, and the mercury is injected and then it's sealed. But the thing is that the sealant to seal mercury, over time it erode, like, it just gets weakened. So the mercury will start to fall out. So every 5 years, actually, there's a brand new sealant that's applied. And that can be done at home. So that's why there's a Panchadhatu, which does not have tin, lead, or mercury, but it's part of Ashtadhatu.
So that mercury being a liquid, is it like something very crucial?
Yes, Mataja, it's part of the 8. These are the 8 most purest forms of metals.
That way.
Like gold, silver, copper, zinc, they're very much pure. So we should only make deities out of pure substances. Like even for marble, it's one slab of marble that is cut down to make the deity. There's no different portions. You can't like glue deities together, right? It's one slab. If one thing is wrong, that entire slab is gone. Now you have to start with a brand new slab and recarve them. So it's always made in the purest form, and these are the 8 most purest forms of metals.
Got it. Okay. When you were talking about plaster, so does plaster of Paris also count? Because I'm just curious. We have so many dolls like
Yes, Mataji. So it does count actually, because if you take, for example, plaster is just hardened paste. So it also comes under lapia, which is allowed. So any form, basically those 8 forms cover all the forms of deities that they can be in. But yes, so plaster of Paris, or even like I've seen deities out of like plastic too. So that all is, yes, a form of the Lord.
Okay. I didn't know plastic was coming. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. And when you were talking about the 5 flavors, so they should be fruit flavors or just colors? Like, how does it work?
So it is recommended for it to be fruit, because fruit is very much natural. It's not like for example, if you use food coloring, then that has different like ingredients. It's not just a color. So it's recommended to use flavored waters with fruits. Like for example, we have strawberries to make red. You can use grapes to make green. In India, there's a fruit called khas. So khas is a very dark green color, and that's what they use. They don't use grapes. And then you can use, preferably not use any citrus fruits, like no oranges, because they can curdle the milk. But yeah, so you have different colors. You can use like bananas or cantaloupes for like yellow, and stuff like that. So those colors, and you can also make like, you have purple, like blueberries and blackberries make a purple color. So always it's recommended to use the fruits because it's natural, but sometimes food coloring is also okay. If you have a natural food coloring, like if you use like beets is a very natural fruit coloring in one sense. So you can use that for like a darker red or like a maroon. So that can be done.
Interesting. So you did mention about the water and the kalash before the invoking the deity. So what is that? Can you tell me the procedure when you pour the water and what does that signify?
Yeah, so what the Ghata Sthapana is that we install multiple deities in that water, namely Varundev, Sudarshan, Vishwakshena, and then we install the Mula Mantra of the deity. So that water is basically, in one sense, none other than the deity that we're installing. Now, what happens is, of course, with the Nyasa Homa, we're breaking all the material aspects and doing the spiritual aspects. But physically, we break those things, or we purify those things by pouring the water that we have established in the kalash at the end. So like, like in the end, they have like a colander and they pour the water, and it's like a shower for the deities. So during that time, we actually pour the water from the ghata that destroys all those physically.
So the same thing as the Nyasa mantra that is chanted to make material spiritual, that is physically done when you pour the water.
Yes. So Nyasa Homa actually is also physical, because Nyasa Homa, what they do is that there's something called, with the kusha grass, they make, I'm forgetting the word. It's basically like a rod out of kusha grass, and the ends of it are frayed, so it's soft, and they touch different parts of the deities during Nasa Homa. So mantras are said at the same time, the different parts of the deities are touched to destroy that specific. Like for heart, they'll do the heart. For arms and different limbs, they'll do that. But the Ghata Stapana, the water is also poured during the Abhishek.
Oh.
Yeah, there are multiple times where that is done. So it's not just only once. So there are different things that it's kind of like a repetitive process just to make sure that everything is spiritual.
Okay, got you. Thanks, Ujwal. This was really fascinating session, and I'm waiting for the part 2, which will be tomorrow. So request everyone to please join tomorrow. Thank you. Indu, you can take over.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Anuradha Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Such an essential class. Very grateful. You know what? I was just thinking you have been to our house. Would you? I didn't realize you were into this. I thought it was only Yagya. So would you approve our altar or not? That was what my doubt when you said you should decorate like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes. Was it okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. See, with the altar, the most important thing is that we should always try our level best. The question always comes that have we done our best or can we do better? And if we have not done our best, then we know that it's not okay for Krishna. We should always do our best, get the best materials, make it the best possible way. That also, I mean, keep in mind, of course, with your own budget, with the different resources that are needed to make the altar, if they're available or not. So, like for example, right now, if you order an altar from India, it's very expensive because of shipping and everything. So that's fine. Don't order it from India. Make it at home. Make it at home. Make it yourself. So that's one thing. So the whole main thing is that have we done our best? And if we have, then Krishna's always pleased.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. On the budget, I was also thinking I might order a altar from India, but it has too much of curves. It will accumulate a lot of dust. And that if it remains like that and my body does not let me clean it off, so a simple altar, I mean, budget and the physical strength also was something I was thinking. Do you agree, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. It's there's so many factors, but the main thing is that we should give them our best. We should always give them our best. Like for example, altar does not mean that we have to get an altar from India. There is no recommendation from anywhere. Instead, it's better if you build your altar. Krishna would love that with your own hands. Like for example, take a house, for example. In India, before, people used to lay the bricks of their own house themselves, and you should like feel so much that I made this house. You have an attachment to that house, that I made this house from my own hands. So same thing with the house for the deities. When we make the house for the deities, like for example, we feel so happy that this house of Krishna was made by us. We get even more attached to that specific house, that we made this house. So it doesn't have to be very opulent from India. Like even if you make it at home, like a simple altar, that's completely fine. You'll feel a lot more happy. Krishna will feel a lot more happy that you yourself worked so hard on that altar, that you made it with your own hands, and it was not something, oh, just made by someone, I just paid them and it's done. So yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful association once again, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Does anyone else have any questions? Varsha?
Yes, Mataji. I have one small question for the Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Prabhuji, my question is like, doing all this Vigraha Puja, where is our bhava role play here? Like some people don't have the enough resources, bandwidth to have the silver, all the utensils, or like, as you say, like opulent prasadam to make every day. So I'm just trying to connect, like how we can connect with our bhava and the Vigraha Puja when we don't have the enough things to do as per our standard.
So that's why I quote that verse, Mataji. Bhatram pushpam phalam toyam. The entire, again, as I said before, the entire consideration is that whatever you do, is it out of love and devotion? Krishna doesn't need silver. Krishna doesn't need these different items. All Krishna is looking for is, are we giving our best? We have to follow certain criteria and rules and regulations, but at the same time, like for example, it's an example is, can you make food without salt? A salt is a very necessary ingredient in making good, delicious prasadam or bhoga. So the same thing here is that we have to, our main ingredient here is our love and devotion. So if you don't have financially, if you're not stable to have silver, or it's expensive out of the pocket right now, that's completely fine. Get brass. If not brass, then get some other material. That's fine. That is completely acceptable. That's why I said that low standards are okay. The only thing is that be consistent with those standards. For example, like if you cannot make a sumptuous feast, like can you make khichdi? Yes, but then keep in mind that if you're eating something better, then that means you're not putting your best. If you're giving Krishna khichdi, then you cannot have anything better than khichdi. If, for example, you do like, oh, today I'm too tired, let me make khichdi for Krishna, I'm not in the mood, and later on you're having a full-on feast, like you got like, you know, paneer, naan, different dals, rice, roti, then are you really truly giving your best to Krishna? No. So that's the thing is, you can't have something better than Krishna. You should not have something better than Krishna. So if you're giving Krishna khichdi, or if you're giving Krishna just milk, then you can't have, you should not have something like that. So at one point we have to decide is it because of our lack of ability to worship the deities in the standards we want, or is it that we just cannot get a standard to set? So that's the one thing we have to work on, is we have to set the standard, and then once we set the standard, then Krishna will make the arrangements. If you set a standard with the love and devotion, see the bhava that comes is your love and devotion. If you go normal Pancharatrika Vidhi, the normal Pancharatrika Vidhi is based on Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. They have nothing about spiritual thing. It's all Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. That's why Hari Bhakti Vilas, what Hari Bhakti Vilas does is it combines the bhava from the Bhagavad Vidhi with the Pancharatrika Vidhi, and that's what we follow. That's why we keep the spiritual master in the center, is because anything that we do is through spiritual master. And our love and devotion in the Dasyam mood is projected with the mood of the spiritual master to give into Krishna. So that's where the bhava comes in place. And it's completely okay if we cannot afford silverware. That is completely okay. But we should just give our best. We should give them whatever we can afford, and that should be given to Krishna. So I've even seen multiple times that, like for example, if you have Shaligram, then they cannot be left at home because there's so high standards that you have to do daily. You have to give them prasadam. And sometimes we might not have proper plates, so we gave paper plates. Paper plates are clean. We don't eat in paper plates and then keep the paper plates. We throw them away. So use that. That's completely fine to use a spoon, the paper plate, the plastic spoons, plastic cup, plastic. When you're traveling, that's completely fine. So at times, standards have to be reduced based on time, place, and circumstance. And that's completely okay, Mataji. So we should not get too worried about the details that, oh, am I using silver, or am I using gold, or am I using this, or am I using that? It should be, whatever am I doing? Am I being consistent with it? Is it the best that I can offer? That's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. That was so clear. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There are a few other raised hands too.
Yes, Mataji.
Preeti Vilasni Mataji, I'm not sure if you raised your hand again, or was that from previously?
It was previous Mataji.
Her Grace Kirti Dasundari Mataji has a question, or she has raised her hand.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So yeah, I don't have any question as such, but just want to add, if you allow, regarding the Mataji that she asked question that if our budget doesn't allow, but I think so you answered it very well. But the thing is that, yeah, we sometimes compromise that, oh, I don't want, my bhoga paraphernalia for the deities. I don't want it to be silver. On the other hand, we go and buy jewelry for ourselves, buy a lot of gold and wear all those ornaments. So as you said, the point is that Krishna should be kept in the center always. So if we cannot afford for Krishna, then we have no adhikar for buying it for our own selves. And if we are buying for our own selves, then there is no compromise that we cannot do it for Krishna. So yes, do our best, and we know our capabilities. Krishna knows how much, just like Hanuman and squirrel. Lord Ramachandra recognized both of them. Both of them were giving their best. So similarly, we should give our best. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I do have some questions if possible.
Yes, Mataji, definitely.
Thank you so much. So Prabhuji, you were talking about how the deities should always face the east, and you didn't give any other direction. So Prabhuji, is there any other possibility, like in our home on the west wall?
Yeah, so the other directions, you can have east, you can have north or northeast. Those are the three main directions.
Okay. So the deities can face north.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so then it's okay for us to face south when we're facing the deities?
Yes, Mataji, because the barrier is the deities, right? So you're not directly looking in south, and the deities are taking care of that.
Okay, perfect, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Another question that I had was, so you mentioned that how Gopal worship is like really, really high standard, and Radha Krishna worship is very high standard. So what if we accidentally also like receive such Gopal deities, and then and even if it's before initiation, or there are other members in the family who are not initiated, how do we worship them?
That's a sign from Krishna saying that increase your standard, Mataji. Gopal is, if the deities are, actually that's what happened for us too. When my parents got initiated in 2011, we didn't have any deities, and some Prabhu who's Mataji just passed away recently in 2011, and he could not take the deities, so he gave the deities to us. Now, when we get the deities, it's the best case is when the deities come on their own. Then that's basically a sign that you have to increase your sadhana. You have to increase your sadhana. You have to increase your standard. If we always keep at the low standards, that's not good for us. Even for example, for like take japa, for example, when we take initiations, we say at least 16 rounds, not at most 16 rounds. So we always increase our standard. The more you chant, the more taste you'll get for chanting, the more rounds you'll end up chanting. You'll go from 16, 32, 48, 64, 120, whatever the rounds numbers are, but it'll keep increasing. So that's the same thing, is we want to start off at the low standards for deities, but at the same time, we want to increase our standards. And if someone just like gifts us Gopal and someone just gifts us Radha Krishna deities, then when the deities are coming on their own, then who are we to stop them? And that basically just means that we should increase our standards. Regarding people who are non-initiated, at home, it's okay. Like for example, if they're chanting at least, then they can do some worship. Like for example, they can offer arti, they can offer bhoga. That's completely fine. But see, again, it's the preferred in Hari Bhakti Vilas, but at home the standards can be reduced a little. Even at temple, they reduce standards. Like sometimes, like for example, in the kitchen, only second initiates are allowed to cook. But sometimes if there's lack of manpower, then first initiates also they're allowed to cook for the deities. So certain standards can be lowered down, but if Krishna's coming on his own, then that's basically a sign that you have to increase your sadhana. You have to increase your standards.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I really love the way you answer each and every question. Very well thought out. I did have another question, but I just forgot. There is a question in the chat though, Prabhu. Which is recommended for altar?
I believe the best wood would be teak wood. Teak wood is the most expensive wood especially in India available. So if you're building on your own, and even if you're getting built from someone, do your research. find the best wood that you can possibly give. Like, and for example, like for our altar, it was pretty hard to get teak wood in America, so we went with the maple wood, which was like one of the next best things. It was big, thick, sturdy. So it's not, there's no recommendation that it should be this wood, but again, it just boils down to the same thing: is that the best that we're giving? If we're trying to get cheaper wood to save cost, then that should not be the deal. We should always give the best that we can offer to Krishna. My spiritual master Bhakti Char Swami used to always say that devotees do everything A1, first class. They do every single thing first class. That's the mood that Srila Prabhupada also wanted us to set, that he wanted to show the world that devotees are the best. They do everything so perfectly without any mistakes. Their plans are perfect. Their way of walking, their presentation is perfect. We should present ourselves properly. So he wanted all the devotees to be perfect. And that is the same mood, that we should always be perfect. We should always give our best. So that's the answer, Mataji. I mean, Prabhu, Jagannath Krishna Prabhu, that there is no, like, the best wood, of course, is teak wood, I believe, but other woods that are also, there are other woods that are also really good, and based on whatever the pocket allows, whatever your budget allows, it can be used. Some temples even are made out of metal, like they'll make it out of metal and then like put like metal frames, like metal sheets, and then they'll cover it up nicely. So that's also fine. So it doesn't have to be only wood, it could be other materials as well. Yes. Oak wood and maple are durable, yes.
Okay.
We made out of our maple wood, yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dear devotees, if you have any other realizations, any other comments or questions, you may please go ahead and unmute yourself or add it to the chat. Otherwise, we can see Prabhuji again tomorrow for a continuation of this session.
Hare Krishna. Can I take 1 second, beta?
Yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Hari Bol, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Kavanga. In our Gujarati, they said that Morna inda chitaro na pade. That means the peacock eggs is exactly like peacock. So all credits goes to H.G. Kirtirasundari Maharaj and H.G. Prabhuji. And yes, your hard work, Prabhuji. Today I learned so many things from you. That time to time, Shri Laddu Gopal need prasadam, and how like in our Gujarati last I attend the marriage, so from childhood we worship Shri Laddu Gopal. So
Yes,
that my cousin marriage, there is they give a sari, 25 sari and ornaments and everything in our Gujarati family, in maybe in all family parents will give. So she make a exactly dress to Shri Laddu Gopal first, and then make a sari exactly like that matching, sometimes not get matching. So she can take exactly material and make a 25 dress of Shri Laddu Gopal first, and 25 jewelry of Shri Laddu Gopal, and then her daughters all the alteration, all the false stitch and whatever it is, blouse stitching. But first she make a dress for Shri Laddu Gopal. So we have I learned from my ma, papa and nana, nani that every month we have to keep some amount in a Shri Laddu Gopal जो box होता है उनका उसमें. So we have to buy jewelries and dress and toy, whatever needed for our Shri Laddu Gopal, silver glass, whatever हमारी जो अंदर की इच्छा होती है तो उसमें रखना है every month. And we have to do second box होता है saving box, that is for Shri Jagannath, Shri Laddu Gopal, Shri Prabhupada, Shri Gurudev, जो हमें temple में देना है. Whatever we earn from the monthly income, 10% we will keep in a side, and by that way we will purchase new dress. So whenever there is a birthday of our kids or our anniversary, or whenever the festival in our home, first we have to buy dress for Shishil and Gopal. That I learn, and I learn from you that very carefully. I offer only breakfast and lunch, and dinner I offer fruits, but I will carefully bake little sweet for Shishil Laddu Gopal. I learn from you so many things, how to take care of our Vigraha. वो हार्ट है हमारे फैमिली का, एंड हम हमारे बच्चे को टीच कैसे कर सकते हैं? वी हैव टू फर्स्ट फॉलो. They are following us, they are watching us, what we are doing a whole day. So my daughter also hearing, Mama, dinner you have to offer Shishil Laddu Gopal. So thank you, my child. So inspiring class, and eagerly waiting tomorrow class also. Koti Dandavat Pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Gopinath ki jai. I will hear again your all instruction, so that I will follow in day-to-day life to my Shishi Gaurnita and Shishi Chakranath Balaram Subhadrani Shishil Laddu Gopal. Thank you so much, beta. Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Mataji. Like for Gopal के लिए तो मतलब standards बहुत high होते हैं. Like उनको दूध पिलाना होता है सुबह रात. Just like the same way you worship a little kid, or like not worship, but you take care of a little kid. It's the same way that you want to take care of Gopal. Or आपने सही कहा, गुजरातियों में तो Gopal is like so famous. So द्वारकाधीश हैं वो, वहीं के हैं. So yes, they have to be taken care of very nicely, and it's the same thing, like the way you will take care of your own child. Like when your kid comes out, like, or goes, like, we always make sure that they're nicely fed, they're always well taken care of. It's the same way you want to do for your deities as well. I know a lot of, like, especially for Gopal, like we keep the same respect, that don't forget that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But at the same time, we can have a different mood, be like, okay, I'm taking care of him as a mother. So that is allowed, but the main mood that we should always keep is that we are the servant, we are the Das, and we're not directly worshiping Gopal. We're doing it on the basis of our spiritual master. We're doing under the guidance and the directions of the spiritual master. And like, that's why this is the whole thing, is that हम जब कुछ भी करते हैं तो पहले गुरु को दिखाते हैं. वो गुरु अपने गुरु को दिखाएंगे, वो अपने गुरु को दिखाएंगे, ऐसे कर करके it'll reach Krishna. So we should not directly go to them. We should go to them under our spiritual master. See, even if, for example, this is an example actually I learned from Narasimha Kesha Prabhu, who is the Narasimha Kavacha Prabhu, who is the head of the ministry of ISKCON deity worship. He was giving the example is that if you want to go talk to an influential person, then you'll easily reach him if you go through his secretary. If you go directly to an influential person, he doesn't know you, he's not going to pay any importance to you. But if you go through his secretary, then you'll get easy guidance. You get easily accessible, you'll get easy entrance to meet the person, the VIP. Same way. Our secretary is our Srila Prabhupada, is our Guru Maharaj. They are the secretaries of the deities. So if we reach them, then we take the backdoor entry and reach Krishna. If we go through in the front on our own, then forget it. You'll never reach Krishna. So that's the same, and that's the importance of going to spiritual master and doing everything under the guidance of spiritual master. And regarding the other point you mentioned, Mataji, ke har mahine save karna chahiye. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to say that 50% of the income should go to temple, 25% should be kept at home, and the other 25% should be kept for savings, for emergency needs. And that, of course, the percentages can be changed. You don't have to give 50 to temple, but like, the thing is that we anyways keep saving for us, so we can save a little bit amount for the deities as well, to buy new dresses, to buy new paraphernalia. Peacock fans get destroyed over time. Chamara gets destroyed over time. Over time, even the silverware will get like less shiny, so we should shine them, polish them, clean them, keep them nice, in a nice condition. And for that, you need money. So we should always keep a small percentage, even like even if it's a small percentage, like even if it's like just like let's say you're saving like $100 a month for the deities, that is even that is can be a lot of times. Like for example, in 2-3 months, you have $300-400. You can easily go get new dresses from India and different things from that. And if someone knows how to stitch, then you should make the dresses at home. You should make the jewelry at home. Krishna loves the things that you make out of your own efforts instead of just paying someone money to make and give it to us. Things that we can make, things that we can do for Krishna, Krishna loves that the most. So always do the best that you can do. And if you have time, learn how to make them. There's so many tutorials on YouTube. Learn how to make jewelry for deities. Learn how to make dressing for deities. Only then we can get better at it. So if we think that, if I make it won't look good, well, of course it won't look good if you're not practiced. But if you keep making, if you keep practicing, then who knows, maybe one time you'll be the best dressmaker for the deities. And you might even get the opportunity to serve other deities. So not just your deities. And Krishna loves when we attain more skills for his pleasure, when we practice for his pleasure. So that is some things to keep in mind. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, beta. Hare Krishna. Koti koti dandavat pranam. Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev Ji Gopinath ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Okay, I think that would be it. There are many comments and very wonderful remarks in the chat, Prabhuji. Is it okay? Shall I read them, or do you want to read them on your own?
I'll read them, Mataji. I don't want that public.
But Prabhuji, very, very grateful for this. I mean, we should have had this. This is the introduction. I really am looking forward to. I mean, so many questions about what are the rules, how do we do things, and I think you will definitely address those tomorrow. Thank you, dear devotees, for being here and for listening to Prabhu. And thank you so much, Prabhuji. We have been trying to get you on Bhakti Sangha so many times, Prabhu. I know Her Grace Vinita Gandharvika Mataji was saying, like, she was so happy that finally you have come, because she's been trying for too long.
And we want to hear a bhajan, Vaishnav song from you. We want to learn Vaishnav song from you. Not today. Whenever you have time, please teach us Vaishnav song. I have seen that you are teaching so nicely.
Thank you, Ujwal Prabhuji, for coming on Bhakti Sangha. I've been asking your mom that I want to hear from you. Today it is very nice to hear from you this topic, because your deities, if I see your deities that you have installed in your house, such a beautiful deities. Whenever I see them, I just wanted to see them continuously. Such a beautiful deities you have, Prabhuji. Very grateful to have your association today, and I'm very happy that I could hear from you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Okay, dear devotees, we'll end the call here. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Archa Vigraha series ki jai. His Grace Ujwal Rasanand Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, beta. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all, dear devotees. We'll end the call here. See you again.